Well, here we are. I want to show you what I did for winterizing my tanks for the goldfish. I have here a horse tank heater. It'll keep the temperature above freezing, about 35 degrees. And I've got goldfish in here, and they're doing pretty well. I mean, they seem to do well with it. I have a fish heater in here keeping it 50 to 60 degrees and then slowly bringing it down each week. I lower it a little bit more and just turn the heater off and on to kind of keep the temperature where I want it, since these fish heaters aren't made to drop down into the 50 range. But that's what I'm doing. I've got the horse tank heaters. I'm gonna eventually get these tanks so that, you know, these goldfish are pretty much ready for the winter. And right now I'm only feeding the goldfish twice or once every 2 days, so 2 to 3 times a week, one feeding. And they say that once the temperature in the water drops below 50 degrees, then you don't want to be feeding them anymore. They'll just kind of go, they won't be able to digest their food, so they'll kind of go into kind of their hibernation mode, I guess, for fish. The main goal is to just keep the water from freezing. So I got my horse tank heater here. We've had some 9-degree nights. I've had this fish heater running, but I tell you what, as it gets colder here in Colorado into, you know, December, January, we're probably going to be getting some 0-degree weather and sub-zero. So, I mean, even the fish heaters aren't going to be able to keep up with that. So, I've got these horse tank heaters. I'm getting the fish ready. But one of the problems I ran into, I have these Tuff horse tanks, and they're really great tanks, 85 gallon here, but they come with a bulkhead. It's pretty small bulkhead. And I had threaded in all of my fittings and everything for my garden beds, and I had some leaking issues. I probably didn't get things tight enough. Who knows what the deal was, but this summer I ended up having to caulk all these things. Well, it kind of made it impossible for me to plug my tank, because the fitting that I have in there, it's kind of a white, I have a small little fitting to go out into the bulkhead, and there's no threading on the inside of that fitting. So how was I going to be able to plug these tanks? Because obviously everything is caulked, and I don't want it freezing. I don't want all of this, you know, even with this thing on here, when you get down to negative degrees, you don't want any water in here. I've got a shut-off valve right here, but that's a lot of water to try to keep from freezing when your tank is only a little above freezing, and your temperature outside in this greenhouse, it's going to get down to below negative 10. As usually I see this thing go down negative 10, sometimes to negative 20 in the greenhouse. And I just don't trust that this is going to, you know, with water in here, that it's not going to freeze even with this thing on here. I'm a little concerned about that. So to winterize this tank, I ended up draining this particular tank. I had the fish out in another tub. While I did this for a few days, I let I drained all the water out, blew out the fittings to make sure there's no water left in here, dried everything really good, and then I ordered a little rubber stopper, see if that would work. Now, it was hard to find the right size. Just if any of you guys have this 85 gallon tub and you want to stop the water like I am, I had to order several different sizes. The one that fits these tanks is 00. That's the size stopper. I don't know if you can, you probably can't see that, but it's a 00 rubber stopper. I pushed it all the way, almost all the way in. You can see I have just a tiny little fingernail place to be able to pull it out. I tried to go bigger size. It was just too big. It was sticking out, and it looked like something like a bump and knock loose in the winter. I don't want to have that when I'm cleaning tanks or whatever. So anyway, just wanted to show you guys this because somebody else might be having the same problem as I was. You know, what do you do to stop the water? You still have your fittings hooked up. They're probably, you know, sealed like mine, because it's hard to keep these things from leaking sometimes. So that's what I did. I got a rubber stopper. I made sure everything was all dried out in the fittings, and now I think we're ready to let that tank drop with the cold weather that's coming in, and the horse tank heaters will keep it from freezing, and we ought to be all set for the winter. Alright, so happy gardening, or happy aquaponics, everybody.